And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. The radio flux now up to 164 solar flux units. It's almost as high as it was at the peak of solar cycle 24. We're a couple years early on that sort of stuff. Let's take a look at the earthly geospace first. This is the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. We're seeing a little uptick here in the magnetohydrodynamic pressure, the nanopascals, which are expressed here via the space weather modeling framework. Again, that's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space out to about 12 Earth diameters. So a little bit of an uptick in the pressure there. It was not accompanied by a massive uptick in the solar wind or anything like that. Things are still pretty calm. Let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Pretty calm at the ground level too. This space weather modeling framework product is scaled in nanotesla magnetic flux density. And like the last series of frames, that is the last 4 hours. Make sure you watch us on Twitch, by the way. We've already streamed one Twitch exclusive live stream video at twitch.tv/smashomash. Let's move on to the KP index, which is only at 1. So we may see a minor uptick here in the KP index. By the way, there is a geomagnetic unrest period forecasted for late in the day universal time tomorrow on April 23rd, Saturday. So here's your real-time solar wind. We're seeing quite a steady solar wind density here. Current conditions are about 6.6 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, 465 kilometers per second. Fairly unremarkable on the solar wind front. When it comes to the magnetism front, things are a little more interesting. We are seeing some activity rising in the southern hemisphere, also some additional activity rising in the northern hemisphere. What you're looking at here is the solar system's heliospheric current sheet. As the sun blasts out protons, they are effectively producing electrical current in that they are charged particles in a neutral environment. Moving charged particles do constitute a current, and these current sheets are polarized as per one or the other solar polar field. So Earth is just about to snap across into a south solar polar field, at least a south pole-oriented current sheet. Shown here in red, this is the South Pole current sheet, in which we will soon be if we aren't already. North Pole current sheet shown in green. So here are your GOES magnetometers over the past 3 days. And we may have already seen the crossing of the current sheet here. If you see some sudden spiky readings in that, that could be the transfer from the North to the South Pole current sheet. It's not always accompanied by any sort of a signal on the GOES magnetometer. Here's a line of sight view. You can see that red area on the left moving in. A possible indication that the activity in the northern hemisphere is dropping and or the activity in the southern hemisphere is rising, and we do indeed see a new likely sunspot group rising in the southeast. Next we'll go to coronal holes. We've got some trans-equatorial coronal holes here of south pole orientation. You can see the south solar polar field is migrating, as is the north. That's what we call a solar cycle, folks. The sunspot number doesn't just rise. We also see the solar polar field migrations, and there you have it. A great representation of that. Some south pole oriented coronal holes here rotating into the earthly strike zone. The earthly strike zone. And they are likely to provide some high-speed coronal hole wind streams. Here's 193 angstroms, and we've seen this coronal hole close up a little bit. Once again, like we said yesterday, the corona is quite bumpy, and so it's hard to see these South Pole-oriented coronal holes over here. They will become much more evident in the next day or so, as there will be less plasma blocking the view of those cool spots and the source of high-speed solar winds. Next, moving on to sunspots. And we've got quite a lot, and some are gigantic. So 2993 and 2994 rose in a spectacular fashion. We've seen many M-class flares, a couple of X-class flares, including the largest solar flare during solar cycle 25 so far, coming from sunspot 2994. Spectacular stuff going on. We've got a new sunspot right back here. This active region you see rising, that already is a sunspot. Make sure you check out our bonus features segment. And by the way, you can find all of our videos conveniently in one location at smashamash.com/smashteam. Just click on posts from that site and you'll find all of our videos in all of our locations. So here's the 1700 angstroms view. Crazy number of sunspots here. Well over 100. What does it say for the wolf number? I think we're over 100 for the sunspot number. But in any case, there is a new sunspot up here in the north, and we're expecting another fairly significant sunspot to rise down here in the south. That's the last 24 hours and 1700 angstroms, part of the extreme ultraviolet light spectrum. Take a moment to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. We've been making daily space weather videos for well over 4 years. What's interesting about science, folks, is when you immerse yourself in the data, you're often provided answers to questions not asked. Our primary content is indeed space weather and meteorology stuff. Meteorology and space weather videos have become my forte, so I became an expert weather forecaster back in the mid-2000s. It was all a function of being a cyclist. Eventually I realized it was too easy and I need greater challenges, as well as needing to take a deep dive into heliophysics because it represents a huge hole in cosmology. So thanks to everybody who's joined us on this continuing mission to explore strange new data and to boldly go where no YouTube channel has gone before, nor is likely capable of. So yeah, thanks for everybody tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists once again. Take a moment, press like, press subscribe, become a member of the Smash Team if you haven't already done so. We greatly appreciate that, especially to you gold, silver, and gold annual paid-up subscribers. Lots of videos there, indeed thousands of videos just about space weather. And don't forget to check our playlists, as there's all kinds of other stuff, such as music videos, and so on. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We are still in the process of composing a paper explaining the solar polar field reversal and sunspot cycles. So help us out by becoming a member of the Smash Team. Once again, gold and silver members get perks. And if you join the annual paid-up subscription level, you'll get complimentary merch. There's an example of that. It's pinned to our Twitter feed. Twitter.com/smashamash. If you don't have an account, make one. There's all kinds of exclusive retweets on there. Also, twitch.tv/smashamash. And we'll show you a little teaser. There is the GDAX Daily Report. That's only for gold and silver Smash Team members. Let's get back to space weather data. So we saw a little M-class flare here. I don't think it provided any relativistic particles. Peak flux was 5:10 universal time this morning. Let's move on. No significant spikes in the proton flux there. And here's a great view to view solar flares, 131 angstroms. One of the many ionized iron species and its ultraviolet light emissions, followed by the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Just splendid. And I think those M-class flares both came out of sunspot 2993. Let us know in the comments if I'm wrong, what you think. Let us know in the comments, whatever you like. And thanks everybody who's been leaving comments the past few days. We read them all, even if we are unable to respond to them all. We love to see your input, and we love each of you viewers. Each one of you. Yeah, you, even you. Next, a star chart. We like to see people understand the orientation. In other words, astrography, yes, the orientation, the location of things. And once again, we've got Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter rising in the morning. The moon near its apex here as it wanes. And I would ask you, where were you when Cygnus rose? Cygnus, it'll be circling the North Star for a long time. Did you know that Deneb actually becomes the North Star at the other end of Earth's precessional tilt-wobble cycle? Were you aware of that? Did you know that Göbekli Tepe is oriented at Deneb? Did you know Deneb is the brightest intrinsic object visible from our solar system? Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Check out smashandmash.com/forum in our cosmology thread for a massive number of details about that. Next, a solar system forecast. Here's where stuff is now. Let's move it ahead 1 week. Here's where things will be in a week. Approaching a new moon, my favorite phase. Shout out to all of our reverse werewolves. We'll close out the video with some coronagraph imagery here from L5, the location of Stereo A and its coronagraph, and L1, the location of the Soho-Lasco C3 and its coronagraph. So for you new viewers out there, from this perspective of the Soho-Lasco C3, Earth would be behind you. And from Stereo A's perspective, Earth would be off to the right, near the equatorial plane there, the ecliptic, the plane on which the planets orbit the sun. And nothing too exciting going on there. Although we are excited about you viewing the video. Thanks again, viewers. Press like, press subscribe. Please share with your friends and foes. If your foes and friends are not into space weather, send them our way. And if you're interested in what was going on, I don't know, a year ago today, detailed stuff about what the sun was doing a year ago today, we've got it covered at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News, and may that solar wind be at your back.